Hey everyone, welcome in. Thank you for joining me. My name is Marlene and I am with A Room to Bloom. Today I made a message earlier, but I ended up just releasing it. I ended up deleting it and letting it go. I was being drawn to just let some of that just go. And so I thought I would start a new reading. It is evening as I record this, and we're going to start out with a deck here called I Am. Now, before I go too much further, I want to say if you are new to my channel, welcome in. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for stopping in again. I am grateful. Your likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions are greatly appreciated as I grow my channel. And I would really be grateful if people would comment about, like, how did you find my channel? Are there topics that come up that are coming up on your journey that would be helpful for you, for me to speak on? Getting involved in the community. Any comments would be really helpful. And then also, if you are a subscriber to my channel, I am not always able to see all of my subscribers. You can make them public if you are unaware of it. And it's just something in settings. You can Google on how to do that. I don't have the information right in front of me. But that way, you can become more involved in, meeting or gathering with others who are kind of on your same path, your journey of expanding your mind, of healing your heart, right? Of nurturing your soul, if you will. Okay, so this deck is called I Am, and what's coming to me is the words we are. I am, right? And so whatever it is that we are experiencing, to embody that energy, it is I am that, right? Instead of I want to be that, I am that. Okay. So what would you like to bring forth for the collective to open this message up? I am open. My heart and mind have no boundaries. That is such a beautiful message to literally open this message with. Because one of the things I was thinking about right before I started the message is there are times that you may, click on a video to watch, and there's something about the words that are resonating with you, but you don't maybe fully understand the concept or concepts yet. But when we have a heart and a mind that is open and does not have boundaries, that makes room for expansion, understanding that there is more than just what we were taught in our experience, right? We might have been taught this much to stay in this lane this way, but there's a lot going on out here, right? Does it mean that everything out here will totally resonate with you? No, everything will not, but like energy attracts like energy. So when you land on a message, there's generally something in the message that is for you. There will be some things that don't resonate with you maybe at this point in your life, but in a month you might remember this video and think, yeah, I remember that coming up then, and now you're having this experience, right? So the idea of being opened with your heart and your mind, so that it can expand, because what happens is we can close in on ourselves if we stay small-minded, if you will, or closed, or if we have a closed heart, right? We can feel like it is a very small existence. So being a seeker, an adventurer, if you will, right? And then these colors are really lovely, very relaxing. That's just a great reminder to the self that when I am relaxed, I am more open. But if you were stressed out and someone came in with some type of whatever, opposing idea that your whole life you've been like, I don't know, it just didn't resonate with you, or you were taught one way or something. But in another place, say you're on vacation and you're just in a very relaxed state, and all of a sudden somebody starts bringing something up, but it's the way that they express it that it's like, now you hear them. Now you hear the message. And why might that be? Because your vibration is raised. You're out of your normal day-to-day stuff, which you have been doing. You're relaxed. You're in a peaceful state, which raises your vibration. And now you can hear the message that maybe someone else was trying to help you understand, right? But this is the thing about this journey. As we move along it, we are not here to change anyone, to convince anyone, to whatever, but simply to share the information, and what resonates with one soul will be helpful for them, right? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to the next message. I know my video has a little bit of reverb. I'm not quite sure why my computer does this. I don't really know what the other settings would be. I don't have a reverb option. I'll try turning this down a little, but I have done that, and then somebody commented that they couldn't hear me. And I know how that is too. I've been in the car listening to podcasts and such, and can't always hear them. So sometimes I'll just save them for later when there isn't that extra noise, right? Okay, so let's take the next one. It says, ooh, it just simply says, I am, right? It's very light. I am. What's coming to me about this is, if you look at it, like, I'm going to say mini blinds are blinds, right? And so if we said this darker tan is like the blind, and we can go through our life in the beginning with our blinds sort of closed, because there's more though. But when we twist them open, there's a lot going on in between this. And if we were in a home and we were looking out, we can see in this area, right? And so, at first these might have all been this one color, but then we learn, oh, there's more here when we look through this. Or if we twist them a certain way, now these would appear to be, open to their full capacity if this were a blind. But then sometimes what do? We don't just look through that. We open the whole shade, right? And it's like a very clear view. And so that's what I'm talking about. Someone might come into your experience who gives you a clear view that you've always had, but the view might actually come because your heart is opening. You are seeing through your heart space. You are listening through your heart space. It's different, right? It's not just the physical anymore. It's energy, okay? Sorry, I just have to check on what's going on over here. Okay. All right. So what else do we have? We have, I am positive. I think good thoughts and I attract good things into my life, okay? So again, like energy attracts like energy. So we sure we have these moments or days we're tested on this journey. And so cruising along our day, vibrations great, right? And what happens? Out of where? Left field comes some type of experience that what? Throws us off. How does it throw us off? It throws us off of the track and the flow that we were on. Or do we allow ourselves to be baited into that? Do we observe it and get back on track, right? Do we give what we give our energy to expands? So if we, do the pivot to something because someone threw us off track, that's like a rabbit hole, right? And so it's like, okay, I see it. And maybe for a few minutes you kind of went into that, right? Or how long did you go into that? That's the question. And you can look back over your life last week, today, yesterday. Did something come along that drew you off of this great state of flow that you had. But you're being called to see it for what it is and to pivot back into your soul alignment, what aligns with your soul, what makes you feel positive, right? I think good thoughts and I attract good things into my life. Like energy attracts like energy. So our thoughts create things. Here's an example. Here's a tape measure, okay? There was a person somewhere along the line. This happens to be a Stanley tape measure. I don't know if his name is Stanley. Some, first or last name, I really don't know. Maybe he was a carpenter, right? And always using a ruler. But then it's like, using a ruler 25 times over, maybe was getting just to be a hassle, and thought, I'm going to come up with a way that we can do this much quicker. So he or whoever thought of this idea, and then they took an action step to maybe drew it out, maybe looked at materials, maybe had a number of samples of different ways that it might work, and then eventually found one that they felt worked well, right? So it was a thought, it was an action, and what was the end result? A working tape measure. And this particular one holds, which most of them do these days, right? And then retractable. So in the beginning they didn't, but somebody else took that next step and they thought, I'd actually like this to stay, so maybe I'll create a casing that has a stop button, or when it's pulled out it stops, but then we'll just push this button and it will come back in, right? What's coming to me all of a sudden too is the idea of when we're sleeping, how our spirit travels, right? And so if this is our sleeping state and we are attached by a silver cord to our body, this is our body, this is a silver cord, just say this tip here is like out here is our spiritual experience, right? And so we travel, but however far we go, but eventually as we wake up in the morning, we are drawn back into our body. Think about people who speak on near-death experiences, right? What are they doing? They're floating over their body. They're floating in other rooms in a building. They're with a number of different people at the same time. No conversations that were happening, hospitals and such. They'll have places where things are put up really high where somebody walking couldn't see it. Only the people who left their body can describe what was up there on the shelves, right? Or, on the top of maybe these cabinets and such, right? And so it is, this idea that coming back into the body, and oftentimes I always say it's very quick, that it felt like a whoosh, and they were right back in their body. So, maybe that's something that you never believed in spirit, right? Or whatever, but we are all spirits that are having a human experience. And so instead of having a closed mind about it, saying, I don't buy that stuff. And if you now let's say it happened to someone very close to you and you trust them fully and they're telling you this. And you can see maybe they're shook up about it, maybe they're super excited about it. And now all of a sudden you're like, there was something to that, because I know that they wouldn't lie about this, and whatever the case is. But again, being positive with the experience. So like energy attracts like energy, staying positive. If you are in a situation that is not for your highest and best, it is pivoting your energy to that which brings you into soul alignment for you, right? Think about sometimes when people live with however many people, and say everybody else goes somewhere but someone's home. Now some people, that's not their thing. They don't want to be home alone. For another person, they're like, yahoo, right? I can do whatever I want. I don't feel the pressure of people pulling at me. I can do whatever on my own schedule. I can eat whenever I want, whatever I want, right? And so some people look at that as a positive thing, and some people look at it as a negative thing. It is in your frame of mind. And so just learning to love yourself wherever you're at. Pivot to what aligns with your soul. Okay. So it says, I am committed. I understand the value of hard work and I pursue my goals relentlessly. I pursue my goals relentlessly. I am committed. Now, there's a balance to me in this, though. We can be committed to our goals, but it's also in our human experience, so many times we run, do, go, exhaust yourself to what end, right? And that is the thing that we learn in the human experience. We can have these things that dangle out in front of us and you're forever chasing after it, but eventually you realize that it isn't something in the physical world that ever truly fills this thing you're longing for, which is the spiritual connection, right? All right. So what else do we have? I am proud. I take deep pleasure in my own achievements. I take deep pleasure in my own achievements. If you just look upon the past, whatever, break it down. Today, it was funny. Even today, I just took a moment and I was actually surprised by how much I did in an hour and 20 minutes. I had some errands to do, and I did them very quickly, right? And it was like I acknowledged that. I'm like, wow, I went to that many places in that short of time. And it wasn't like this huge pat on the back, but I was like, yeah, I was able to do that and get it done, right? Get her done is what's coming to me. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, and actually that's interesting. I've got these cards called You've Got This. So let's see what's going on. And every time I look at this deck, it reminds me of, there was it's called Gas Station Karaoke on, I think, YouTube or Facebook or something. And it's so funny because the news reporter gets on this gas station pump and he says, hey, because someone's singing while they're putting gas in their tank. And he's like, hey, you. And I was like, what? You're talking to me? The guy who's putting gas in. And anyway, so he says, hey, you want to sing a song for us? He's like, okay. The guy who's pumping gas says, yeah, okay, I'll sing it. And he says, I'm trying to remember the words that they used, but it was so funny because the news anchor or whatever asked him, well, what do you want to sing? And the guy says, well, what do you got? Every time I look at this deck, You've Got This. And the news anchor started laughing, and he's like, what do you got? Like the guy knew a whole bunch of songs already. He was very prepared and could sing whatever, right? Okay, so anyway, we have remember your dreams and fight for them. And that falls under I am open, right? When we are open, we open our hearts to potentially different paths that actually end up leading us to our dreams. One day where we may have said no, or maybe you said no a number of times, and then one day you say yes, and you're like, oh, I maybe wish I would have done this a long time ago, right? Because it actually ended up leading you to closer to the dreams that you have. Okay, what else do we have here under the I am? Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. Oprah Winfrey. Think about that. It's like, when you're a kid and you ride a bike for the first time, kids aren't afraid to hop on a scooter or a skateboard. Sure, maybe they're a slight bit timid, but they brush it off in 5 seconds, especially if all their other friends are doing it, right? They're just like, oh, well, if they can do that, I can do that. They don't even really give it much thought. And but if there is someone who is fragile, who is living in fear, helping them to overcome that fear. But you can't do it for someone, but you can encourage them with messages like this. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness, right? Because that is when we learn about ourselves and what resonates with us and what doesn't. Okay, under the I am positive, challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. So we are spirits having a human experience. We are here to evolve our soul. And so on this journey, we have challenges that are put in our way, if you will. And some of them will be like, what's coming to me is a pothole in a street, right? A little dip. Some will be like a speed bump, right? So it slows you down a little bit, but it doesn't slow you down that. Some may feel like a bigger hill or a really big climb, or right, whatever that is. But it's like it is through the challenges where we learn about ourselves, right? And it makes life interesting. And that's interesting because it says I am positive. So if you are going through some challenges, and we can focus on, okay, I see that I am being tested right now of sort, right? How am I going to handle this experience? Am I going to see the silver lining? Am I going to focus on the positive in the experience, or will I focus on the opposite of that, right? So it's up to you. Okay, the next one is get more confidence. This falls under I am committed. Get more confidence by doing things that excite and frighten you, and allow things not to be okay once in a while. It's something we all have to work at. Baby steps are fine. Okay, we have an orange monarch butterfly on here, and what is coming to me, this idea of transformation. Again, maybe you've always done things a certain way. Why? Because maybe that's the way your family did things a certain way, or whatever it is. Maybe you were married for however long, and that's what you guys did, but now you're not. And it's like, but you've always maybe wanted to try something different, but now you're like, I don't know if I want to do it alone. This is saying try it. Have confidence in doing things that both excite and frighten you, and be committed to that, right? Okay, the next one we have is failure is the condiment that gives a success its flavor. Okay, so we have two messages that are like that, right? The one with the queen, failure is not another, it's another stepping stone to greatness. It gives success its flavor. So it's like the word appreciation is coming through, right? Think about when somebody is like they're a chef and they are creating a dish for a restaurant, right? They might try for a while to really master a particular flavor in a certain dish. And because they're doing this not in their home kitchen where they can just wing it, if they're doing it for a large group of people who will want to come back for that same dish, that same flavor, they also have to do that with consistency. And what's interesting, it says I am proud. It falls under that card. I take deep pleasure in my own achievements. And so in those achievements, you definitely may have had some failures in order to get to that success and the appreciation of success. Okay? All right, I'm going to take a message from the before I do, I want to use a deck here. I haven't used this in a long time. It's called the Wise and Witty Stress Solution Kit. So if you have been feeling kind of overwhelmed, because again, we have this message in here about failure and challenge. We have that like 3 times in here. So if you've been going through some things, let's see what comes up. All right, what would you like to bring forth for the collective? Come back from La La Land. That makes me laugh. Okay. Now, you know what's actually funny about this? Because it falls under the card that says, remember your dream and fight for them. So some people might see you as being in la la land because you are working on your dreams. You are in a state of being where you're magnetizing things into yourself because your thoughts create your reality. So, what it says is, have you noticed that when you talk to certain people, a lot of them are staring off into a distant place? I think they're trying to go back to La La Land. I remember that place well. I often visited this wonderful haven when my mother gave me lectures on my behavior or when my classroom work was beyond boring. Today, people go there because they're under so much pressure that listening becomes something they find impossible to do. Their brains are maxed out, so they take a virtual leave of absence. Okay, and you know what? When you are in a waking state and you are going to la la land, or you're just, when people say vegging out or whatever, what's happening? It's like your spirit is leaving your body for a while. You're out here. You're out here. Your body's right here. You're still connected. If somebody says something to you and they call you out, what's going to happen? You're going to snap right back into your body and go, what? Okay, that's funny. Okay, so I just picked up all of the cards, but one laid on the table, so we're going to use this one. It says everyday courage. And you know what's interesting? It says think like a queen. That's the card it falls under. But here we have a woman who is dressed as a knight. It says, I've witnessed many courageous individuals throughout my career, people who have gone through major crises and tragedies and seem to be more in touch with the wonders of life than ever before. Those would be called, they might be have gone through what are tower moments, and then they start to have spiritual awakenings. They can come in steps or it could come in a big awakening, right? I wish to offer a different concept of the word courage. I believe it takes courage to be happy. Every day we're given the opportunity to be cowardly or courageous in the face of perennial irritations. Do you make things worse by blowing things out of proportion and falling into despair? Or do you do the truly courageous thing and say, oh well, and go on? Can you see the forest through the trees, or are you in the twigs? This is kind of what we talked about right in the beginning, right? It's a state of mind. It's like, ah, let it go. I'm not going to give that so much energy. The other words that are coming to me is the idea of picking your battles, right? Picking your battles. Like, is it really worth all the energy? Or do you want to give all that your energy? Or do you want to turn your energy to something that aligns with your soul and brings you joy? Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, just be still. That's what I said. We are human beings. We are not human doings. We are human beings. But in our human experience, we do things. We have experiences. But it is about learning to balance the being and the doing. So just be still. Okay, so it says, have you ever felt wired? The words that always come to me is like all jacked up, out of sorts, like a live wire, right? You're beside yourself. So anxious is what's coming here. Have you ever felt wired? Wanting to go, 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 despite the fact that you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go anywhere. But we get so programmed into that I need to produce. I better do this. I have to get that done. Why? Who are you performing for? Okay, maybe you have a family that, is like they want to have dinner when they come home, right? But sometimes, okay, so that's one step, but we go way and beyond, this type of thing. Stress can have an addictive quality to it. We may use its chemistry to give us the rush of feeling on top of things. But remember that what goes up must come down. Your brain will eventually feel the burnout of too much. We all need some stillness in our lives because it gives us a mini vacation from our routine, as well as allowing us the gift of regaining perspective and creating a space for renewal. This is a great conversation if you, um, as a parent, as a person, we've all seen kids that are going, 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 and you're like, or people that go, 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 right? And maybe you're not there, and so you watch them, and you're just maybe you are here in the still, but maybe you're the person who's doing all the running, and you look at other people, and you might think they're not achieving anything, right? Because what is that doing? That's kind of giving you that rush of feeling like you're on top of things. But truly, you might be really exhausted, and you think, how can they do that? Because they just choose to. They choose to rest. They choose to honor their body. They choose to clear their mind, to reset themselves. They allow themselves the gift of being. Okay? And it falls again under I am positive, right? I am positive with my being. And remember, like when I was talking about things coming out of left field, you might be in your B zone, right? You're just being all is good. And then along comes someone who says, well, you should do this, do that, right? The do list, the honey-do list. And you're like, but that's messing with my being mode. But there is balance. And so it's like, okay, I make space for the doing, but I make space for the being. All right, what else do we have? I am committed. Again, it says get more confidence by doing things that excite and frighten you. So it says use words that make you soar. This is speak words of life over yourself. Your words create things. First, your thoughts create them, but then you're speaking them. Your thoughts are heard by spirit, right? But you start to attract in what you are thinking about. So, and then what you are speaking about, it's like you're giving it this extra oomph, right? So use words that make you soar. How many times have you asked people how they are, and they answer back kind of amorously, I'm fine, right? The late Leo Buscaglia, who was once called the love doctor, would say back to such people, well then, why don't you tell your face? Our words allow us to have the emotion that follows. So why settle for less than grand? If someone asks you how you're feeling, say that you're amazing, brilliant, bigger than life, and truly magnificent. Watch what happens to your feelings. You may feel like a rocket going to the moon. Speak words of life over yourself, over your situation, over your job, over your family, right? Over your loved ones. Speak words of life. If you just sat with yourself after this video and you asked yourself the question, what words came out of my mouth today in what situations? What did I speak about or on? Or if somebody asked me how I was, did I do the fine, the little short thing and that was it? Or did I elaborate on a whole, oh, woe is me story? Or did I say, I'm super excited about this, I'm doing great, things are awesome? It asks, it's like recording ourselves, right? And so taking a look back, maybe being committed to using words that make you soar. And once you hear this, and so tomorrow somebody might say something to you and you remember this and you're like, before you just answer, you take a moment and you pause and you say, you know what? I'm doing better all the time. Those are very positive words, right? I'm doing better all the time. Thank you for asking. Okay. The next one is under I am proud and failure is the condiment that gives a life or gives success its flavor. We have mystify is the word. Mystify. Do you tell everything to everyone, which is so interesting because I was just going to start talking about that, but I let it be. Should you consider buying some duct tape to stop the flow of information? Remember that you're much more interesting if you hold back. Katharine Hepburn always remained something of an enigma, yet today we think disclosure is the key to fame and fortune. A dear friend of mine once said something I'll never forget. You don't need to express every thought you have, right? Holding some of that in, sitting with it, regularly each morning. Uh, how did I feel about experiences I had yesterday? But really, that's yesterday. And so, can we let that go? How am I feeling right now? Is there something that kind of came through my thoughts as I was maybe getting ready or whatever, making coffee? And then really taking a look at that. Is it in my nature to pick the phone up and call everyone the second I have an experience in my life that is whatever direction on the scale of experiences you want to say, right? Or do I hold it in? If it's been a challenging experience, do I try to work my way through it? Do I sit with things for a while? Do I just be still and see what the messages are that are coming in regarding the experience? Do I stay positive about the experience, understanding that yes, I'm here, I'm evolving my soul, right? I don't have to broadcast my whole life on social media, everything that's going on in my life. I don't have to say all that stuff, right? Um, and yet in this journey, if you're getting messages that are to help the collective, now that's one thing, right? To help another. But when it is your personal story, um, everything you did, everyone you talked to, everything place you've been, and all the emotions and the feelings and the words, and it's like you're rehashing it, you're bringing it up again, you're regurgitating it. And so if it made you feel some sort of way, then it's probably you're just rehashing it, right? You're just bringing that energy up, versus if you get still and you look at it from a higher perspective, and then you ask yourself, what was the lesson for me to learn in that experience about myself, not ever about anyone else? What was the lesson for me to learn about myself from that experience? And then you move through it. Now you might be feeling some sort of way about it, right? And the next day, say you go to work or you go wherever, and people are like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Right? And then your natural response would usually have been to spill the whole thing. But now you're like, oh, you know what? I'm just moving through something. It's good. It's all good, right? Yeah, I'm not going to go there. And some people want you to go there because why? Because you're regurgitating it. You're living back in the energy of again. You are back in the loop of that energy. And so when you let it go, it's like it doesn't hold anything over you anymore. And you're like, oh, I feel free when I don't keep giving it energy, because the more you give it energy, the bigger it gets, right? So now you have a conversation with someone and they rile you up, and now you're more riled up, and you're, and so it's like, yeah, I think I'm just going to let this go. All right. And I am being called to split this, so let's see what we have. Stand your ground. Okay, number 13 on here too is about transition. Says many individuals have strong values and beliefs, but they feel shy about expressing them out of concern that others will disagree. You don't have to live your life on a soapbox, but it is important to honor those things you feel strongly about, such as truth, integrity, justice, and accountability, just to name a few. If you keep quiet when others disagree, you may keep them as friends, but lose your self worth in the bargain, right? And, I'll bet you we've all had experiences like that where we might think, why is this happening? A certain experience, right? I definitely was having that happen uh, in certain situations in my life, and where it just didn't make sense to me, right? And what I did, though, is I learned to be an observer, and I just asked. It was like, God, what are you trying to show me here? What would you like me to learn in this lesson? Because it felt like it kept coming up, like I was being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, where it was finally like, okay, there's something I am supposed to see. There's something I am supposed to learn. But it didn't mean that I was all good with it. It didn't mean that it resonated with my spirit, right? Again, if you keep quiet when others disagree, you may keep them as friends, but you lose your self worth in the bargain, because it did not resonate with me. It was not who I was or who I am. But I felt as if I was, yes, I was being pushed, but I was also being shown, I say something in various instances, right? So if there is something that's coming up, it is okay to hold the values that resonate with you. And so I have a book here, and somewhere in it, it speaks about like writing your list of what is your true north. And that may change in your lifetime. But we're talking about let's see. Well, there were some examples on here, right? Integrity, justice, accountability, to name a few. What is your true north when it comes to certain values, if you will? Now, again, they may change. Have you ever had, say, a situation, if you're, whatever age, and if your friend has a child, I say a child, but whatever it is, kids at all ages go through different things, and you might be like, oh, well, my child's not playing with that child, right? Or whatever that is. However, eventually you start to learn more. There was more to this, but so sometimes walls get thrown up because judgments get made, right? But when we take the judgment part out of it, and we're like, it's just more of a resonance, a soul resonance, and we're like, that doesn't resonate with my soul. Um, Even though there will be people who will try to pull you off of your soul's path, right? Your soul alignment, your true north. It doesn't mean that not to ever grow or not to ever change, right? Again, what was this word? I am open, right? It opened with this. My heart and mind have no boundaries. But there are things that will not resonate with your soul. It doesn't mean that you're totally good with it, but it doesn't mean that you have to take someone totally down either. It might just mean that you might want to step back, to set some boundaries, to sit still, and to ask, what was the lesson that you were supposed to learn in a particular situation? Sometimes the lesson is simply to learn to stand your ground in certain situations. Sometimes the lesson is to say, it's okay to give in a little bit, right? Or to not be so rigid, to know that there is more than just that tiny little way that you've learned things, right? There is a bigger picture here, right? So it is about soul alignment and soul resonance. Okay, so we're going to go to a deck here called the Ancestor Oracle. Just looking at the time, we're at 44 minutes here. All right, messages from the ancestors. What would you like to bring forth here for the collective? All right, shaman, spirit guide. Okay, and so we have a hummingbird and the shaman, and I want to actually read this particular one here. So you could have shamanism run in your family or a spirit guide that is working with you. Um, so it says the word shaman comes from the Evenki tribe in Siberia, and it means one who sees in the dark, or one who knows, and it has become more widely known in the Western world over the last few decades. Though called by different names depending upon the culture, which I won't read all of them, the term implies the ability to receive guidance and inspiration through various manifestations of spirit. Okay, yeah, I have goosebumps. Such as animals, plants, ancestors, dreams, and journeys into the non ordinary reality. So yesterday I pulled a card and it said, "Birds communicate with you." Yeah, spirit. It was messages from heaven, and I see this like a lot, right? And so it's kind of neat that she's holding a hummingbird. So it says, so journeying into the non-ordinary reality. Remember, I was talking about this card here, this part here, the white part. A lot of people, they just see the blinds. The blinders are on, right? But there is a whole lot more going on in this part here. There's a lot more going on, energetically speaking, spiritually speaking, right? Okay. In doing so, the shaman applies this information for the benefit of the community. The shaman is a healer, a teacher, an herbalist, a philanthropist, a psychiatrist, and a storyteller all in one. In indigenous communities, they typically carried a breadth and depth of knowledge and wisdom that came from a long standing tradition and were intimately familiar with both the physical and the spiritual realms. One fundamental operating principle is shamanic work is that of direct revelation. I have goosebumps everywhere. I just have to let you know this as I'm reading this, which means receiving guidance straight from spirit guides. Lately, many more are being called to shamanic practices as a means to help us remember who we really are and our place as human beings in relation to all other beings on the planet. Due to constrictions that have embedded themselves in your consciousness because of our earlier indoctrinations, right? That narrow, what we were taught, right? Like live within these lines or whatever. You have come to be skeptical. Okay, so what do you want to do instead of being skeptical? Okay, that did come up twice, but you know what I mean. Anyway, try to be open a bit, okay? And distrustful of anything to do with receiving guidance and messages from spirit guides. Again, if you had an experience and it wasn't you, but it was someone you knew, loved, and trusted, or say it was your child, that is coming to you with information that they were never learned, that they wake up with a dream and they're drawing pictures of ancient cities, or they're pulling out, they get up and they can play, Bach or Beethoven, and it's like spirit is coming to them and helping them do this, right? And so all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? Yeah, there, and all of a sudden when you never believed in anything else, you're going, there's a whole lot more going on here, right? And now you start to what? Become open. You start to open up. So any number of fears can be activated. Messages that come to you get ignored or rebuked is just your imagination. Think about that when kids have things and parents say, they're just imagining it, right? But parents can't deny it. Parents cannot deny it when their little kids are coming to them with stories. Or they might say, oh, I was playing with so and so, and the parent can't see a little kid, but there's a little kid. And then finally, the kid's so insistent about things, or this will be life in between lives, or past life memories kids are having. And the parents start to look into the history, and it's true. These kids they're picking up all this other stuff from different timelines, if you will. Okay, so again, it's just your imagination. And others may disapprove of the philosophy and practice that is different from the status quo. They disapprove because they are afraid, because they do not know. And that is what, in our human experience, often we're taught. If we don't know it or understand it, we might fear it. Things that are different, right? Yet it is time to learn to trust that the world is alive and enchanted. That imagination is simply the bridge to perceiving a world beyond the ordinary, and that spirit truly can reveal guidance directly with no need for an intermediary. Your prayers of discernment are growing in leaps and bounds, such that you can readily tell the difference between the voice of the ego and the voice of spirit. Stay the course and get support if needed. Stay the course. We have I am committed. Get support if needed, and opening up to this way of life that offers a renewed relationship with Mother Earth and all of her children. Remember who you really are, and that you are profoundly and intimately related to all beings, both visible and non-visible. For any of you who have stayed this long in the video, I would love to hear any stories, or that if there was a point in your life where you did not, let's use the word, buy into this stuff, right? Or believe in this stuff. But then there was an experience, or you're having experiences now, which is chances are how you got to this channel, right? You've been having experiences and you're searching for help and guidance as to say, what is going on, right? And is this stuff really real? Yes, it is. It is so real and so beautiful. And spirit has a sense of humor. Spirit has a sense of humor. And so say you've lost someone that you love dearly, and the more that you think of them, the more that you are bringing them into your awareness. So if you're thinking about them and you think about memories of them, or you have dreams about them, right? Or maybe you have a piece of clothing or something that they had, the more that you think about them, the more that you can draw them into your awareness in the way that, like, you can ask them to show themselves to you in a way that you understand that they are around. Now, they may not manifest before your eyes, but they might manifest. Let's say they had a favorite football team, right? And so let's say that you are in a store and you go to the rack. Say you just ask for that sign. And you're feeling good, by the way, vibrations high, because they're at a higher vibration, so they have to lower their vibration some to show you, but you've got to raise your vibration to meet in that middle. So let's say that you go into the store and you ask for a sign while you're out and about, and there's a jersey with their say it's a sample jersey, right, of this football team, and maybe they make custom jerseys, but the one that happens to be made is your person's name is on it, and even their favorite number, but it's that team, right? Okay. And you're like, first time around, you might think, just a coincidence, right? But then as the day goes on, because say you get it, but you're with someone who's not on board with that. So they're going to keep working to show someone that they are around, right? That they are around. And if you continue to ask, especially if you thank them and you say, okay, I see this sign, and you might laugh a little, okay. Or they might bring something funny into your experience that brought back a happy memory, right? Or something that you know that they loved to do. Okay, I have goosebumps. Something that you know that they loved to do comes into your presence, or whatever it is, right? And so uh, allow though for an openness, if you will. It's not a demanding and say, well, you must show me this, but if you could show me a sign, and if it was whatever it is, right? Give examples. It could be colors, it could be numbers, but show me a sign so I can't miss that you're here with us, right? Throughout the day, I'd be so grateful. And then just be open, pay attention, be committed to paying attention, stay positive about it. Because if you're a big naysayer, it'll be like, this is about believing and having faith that there really is. They're right here. It's just that you can't see past the veil, but they're trying to show you signs, and the signs are all over all the time. And so it's a matter of what are we paying attention to the messages that they want to show us? Okay. All right. So what else do we have here? We have rhythm maker, tempo. Okay, so we have two guys playing the drum here. My cards are kind of all messed up now. They're not in a row, but it is what it is. Well, let's see. I'm not sure. I think it's, yeah, it's rhythm maker, because there's two words on here. It says, in the beginning, there was a beat. 14 million years ago, the universe began with a beat, a pulsation of energy and matter, and the beat goes on. Rhythms are such a part of life that we tend to overlook how fundamental they are, yet they are with us at all times. Your first experience of rhythm was while you were in your mother's womb. That's why people have drumming ceremonies as well, connecting with the earth. It gets back to, it's like the heartbeat. With the rudimentary conscious awareness of physicality came the awareness of rhythm. As you developed, you were continually immersed in rhythms such as your mother's heartbeat and breath. These rhythms would fluctuate during these early formative years and months. Even now, you cannot help but notice how dormant rhythms are to everyday life. How dominant rhythms are to everyday life. There is a rhythmic dance going on at all times. Around you and inside of you, it is the most elemental experience of being alive. You're feeling out of sync with the natural rhythms of your body and your surroundings. Being out of sync can create anxiety, which is interesting because we had that card. We had that card that spoke about that, and I'm sorry I don't have it. It's kind of a mess here right now. Being out of sync can create anxiety, confusion, and in its own extreme, disorientation. This is where we pause for a few moments, close your eyes, and allow your breathing to be at a natural pace. Instead of that doing, I have to, I must, I'm just going to regather, right? I'm going to regather, this idea of marching to the beat of my own drum instead of all these other ones going on, right? pause for a few minutes, close your eyes, and allow your breathing to be at a natural pace. Step out of time and simply notice your heartbeat and your breathing. Notice how even ordinary physical movements such as tapping your fingers, nodding your head, and walking carry with them innate rhythms. Experiments with drumming and dancing. You don't need a drum to create a drumming rhythm, and you don't need to be a professional to move to the beat of your favorite songs. Allow your body to express itself rhythmically through movement and sound, and notice how doing this can shift your feelings. Let go of the inhibitions and let the rhythm flow through you and express as you. As you let go, you'll enter into a different state of consciousness, one where the rhythm of your movement is moving you. Very lovely. Okay, and then we'll take one more. I know we're probably, yeah, we're just at an hour right now. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, animal, and we have instinct. Okay, a card just fell, and it is the use words that make you soar. So let's see what comes here under animal. The closest animal ancestors we have are the family of great apes. Science has determined that we share 99% of our DNA with chimpanzees. It was about 2 million years ago that through this lineage, humans were birthed and evolved over time to become the modern day version. Since animals, now I am reading from this book, so this might not resonate with you, right? But let's just move forward. Since animals are largely instinctual and we live in monkey bodies, it's through our bodies that we can discern just how closely related we are to other animals. Over millennia, self-reflective consciousness appeared where we could be aware of our own thoughts and feelings in the form of memories, anticipation, and analysis. Yet our thought processes can often take us far away from being present in the moment, removing us from awareness of our instinct, which is in charge of our survival. Instinct can and is often conditioned to misinterpret threats when they aren't really there, particularly when one has traumatic experiences growing up. Societal and cultural conditioning remove us further from our instinctual selves and from our very animal nature that exists in our DNA. I really wanted to read that one sentence again. Instinct can and is often conditioned to misinterpret threats when they aren't really there, particularly when one has had traumatic experiences growing up. So what we're talking about here is PSTD, right? Or PTSD, pardon me. So a trigger, something comes up, a trigger throws one off. So they're reacting versus moving instinctually, right? They're reacting. It's the fight, flight, or freeze mode, and reaction and things like that. And so it's like getting ahead of it and saying, I'm going to move from instinct now. I'm not going to let that or those experiences from my past rule my present. I'm going to trust my instincts now. I'm not going to let fear push me out of my body so that I cannot tap into my instinct, right? I'm going to be present and here right now. It says you are not in tune with your body and your instinctual self. Due to various life experiences and conditioning, you have learned to deny or override the messages from your body. No need to view the sensations you're experiencing as threats to your survival or ones to be ignored out of fear. These sensations are rooted in your instinct and beg for your attention. They will provide you clues as to what is going on that can help you determine a choice of action. Even if it is to be still for a period of time. Breathing slowly and deeply will help you perceive and receive these sensations and impulses. They are urging you to discover and to experience the emotions that are trapped by your conditioning and your denial. Let go and surrender these sensations and emotions. One way that you can let go is get the drums, get the breathing, something that has a rhythm to it, right? So that you release. Okay. It it will allow you to clear them, and in doing so give you more consistent awareness of your instinctual self. Movement in the form of exercise, dance, yoga, or simply walking while breathing consciously will help you become more alert to your body's signals. Think about any time in your life that you have gone somewhere and you feel some sort of way about it. But you maybe, depending upon where you are in your journey, you simply just might feel the energy and it's not resonating with you. Another person who's very busy and, not tuning in, right? They've got nothing. But if you are sensitive to energies, if you are trusting your instinct, if you are feeling energy, you will be like, I'm getting a soul no here. There's a soul no right now. And so for whatever reason, you're like, this isn't resonating with me. How about we go somewhere else? Now, if it's a group of 10 people that are in there and you drove yourself and there's something you're feeling some sort of way about, and it's like, it's okay, right? If that doesn't resonate with you, to just step back. If you sense something. Now, if you want to tell someone, you could go in and you could tell people however you're feeling. And then everyone has an input and they whatever. And so you can go in and do that, or you can just step back, get still, trust your instincts. Think about when people don't get on airplanes because they were feeling some sort of way about it. And then what happens, right? Think about when people didn't go to the World Trade Center. Different things that happened, right? I can't remember like all the stories, but there were some of those stories where it was like, or people had dreams, right, about this in advance. So trusting what is coming up for you in your experience. All right, so I think that is the message for today. It's kind of a longer message, but I want to say thank you for joining me. I hope that you have an amazing day. Take care.